Well, this is a Dorothy Heiser of Empress Eugenie, and I bought her because I thought her face was so beautiful. I really loved the doll, but as you can see, the dress is slowly deteriorating and is in not great shape. If you look at the color of it, it's fairly dark when it should be a very nice off-white or cream color. So my question is, what do we do now?
So are you asking me, or are you asking Miss Coleman, or are you asking both of us?
I'm asking both of you because you're my experts.
Well, so do you want to see us fight right here?
Yes, can
we?
we?
Can do it. Who wants to go first? You want me to go first?
Well, I can go first because I can say you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
That's true.
So which is better to be, damned and damned or don't and don't?
Well, I think that sometimes we have to take a reality pill. And the reality of this doll is the face is absolutely magnificent. I mean, it is really beautiful. That the flowers in the hair are beautiful. The wig is beautiful. The hat is wonderful. The hat could use a little bit of conservation, cleaning, but maybe a tiny bit of reshaping. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Then when we get to the dress, there is nothing that could be done to, in my opinion, to save this dress. It's
on its own
self-destructing.
timetable into eternity.
Yeah. And if you did a big project to preserve it, it would look so bad, the preservation of it. And if you could find someone crazy enough to do it, it would cost so much that it would be more than the doll's worth, or ever could
Well,
be.
you would end up with less rather than more if you tried to preserve it, because the fabric is so brittle that any puncturing of it is just going to make it even more brittle. You can't sandwich it, you can't back it, you can't do anything to it without destroying more of it rather than helping it.
So my question is, do I do something with it now?
Well, let's just finish with what we have. We have one other thing to say about dolls to those people out there that are going to think what we're going to do or what we should do is horrible. We are really the only art form that requires millinery
Understanding
dresses,
of different materials and how they interact.
jewels, bodies, footwear. These are a lot of components on one art object. So we're really, I can't think of any other.
No,
Can
there
you?
is no other.
There is no other. Okay, then now your question.
Well, my question is, do I leave this doll as is for a while? Do I let it continue to deteriorate? Do we do something about it while we still have the shape to be able to see the pattern and the depth of the ruffles, etc., that I need to figure out if I want to recreate the dress? We know from other examples of this, I've seen it in a smaller size. This is one of her larger size dolls where the hat had streamers off the back, which if I turn her,
Sure. Go ahead and turn it.
it's obviously gone.
Sure. There. Do you want me to say what I think, Miss Coleman?
Yes,
Okay.
you may say what you think.
What I think is it's not as bad as you think, because since the dress is there, and there's enough to tell us. Just say if you had a French fashion doll portrait of the Empress of France and the dress was gone, you don't have anything to work with. So here we have Dorothy Heiser's exquisite styling, which then could be made and used for a pattern. We have her, I think, some very unique techniques she did for her flounces, so we can see exactly what they're supposed to be. And I think that she used the top stitching to create a decorative embellishment. Do you agree with that? Or
Yeah.
and
I think we can see some of the draping here.
the draping. So this, what I would do if I were working on this doll, I would photograph it left and right before I took it off the doll to start working on a pattern. And then I would take the bows, which are exquisite, I mean, I'd do anything for that ribbon if I could get it. They're all perfect. And they're usually the thing, here you can see, probably about the same time frame. This is normally what you get in a bow from about the same length. It just starts to disintegrate, but she got really good quality satin. So I think you've got a really it's a simple dress to put together. It's not simple to do all those hems and the gathering, but it's all pretty much there to make. And then the difficult part is finding, you'd think that this would be a very easy fabric to find. It is not now. It's a difficult fabric to find, but it can be totally
It's an organdy, which is a heavily sized cotton fabric.
Now, what do
which
you think
gave
of
it the
what I just said? Is that agreeable to you?
Yes. But
So when you have a doll that has these kinds of issues, even beyond Heiser, if you're talking about another type of doll, is knowing whether or not you can get that kind of replacement fabric of that level a major condition?
Well, I would, if you really care about the history of a doll like this, okay, say you could get some nice organdy from the 1930s and use it, but you're kind of you're just it's going to happen. I would get new organdy of the utmost quality.
yes, you would get it as close as you possibly could
Yes.
to what's here.
And I
the
would maybe-
important thing always is to save the original piece.
Yes.
For as
Don't-
long as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it
But,
will.
but it's going to disintegrate, but to save the original so that things change in conservation philosophy, in preservation philosophy, in restoration philosophy overnight. And so what you do today, somebody in 5 years is going to come along and say, oh, they didn't know what they were doing. And what they did was terrible then. So you want to save what was original so that if there is a change in philosophy, somebody else can work on it.
And the thing about saving the original and working with the original, you could figure out how many stitches per inch, and that would be how you would do this. Now we've got this in much nicer light than we had when we did the program, and I can see that I thought that the hem was machine stitched at the edge, but it's not. It's
No,
all
it's all
hand
hand
stitched.
done, yeah.
But you couldn't see that in the and I think that we probably, while you're replacing the dress, the petticoat underneath is just it's on its way too.
It's a weighted silk.
It's on its way. But Anne, you know, you spent your life working in major museums as an acting curator. Museums don't show wrecked items.
No.
They have them preserved and repaired, and people don't always
Try to
talk about
stabilize them to the best of our
Yeah.
ability. But this is beyond stabilizing.
Right. And you would never, this would not be something that you would ever show in a exhibit unless the
It would be a study piece.
a study piece. And that would be, you'd have a scholar coming and wanting to see a behind the scenes, how it was made. It wouldn't be, the public would be appalled.
Yeah.
And dolls, this is a great
This
doll.
is one where you can do something about the issue, but there are other more complicated structurally garments on dolls, which it becomes a really serious question about how you're going to work with it on it. But this one basically is just straight yardage of the fabric. You aren't cutting on the bias. It's just absolutely straight strips of fabric. So you've got a very easy thing to
And some of the very hard parts she's done by machine. So it, but again, I mean, the bows. I feel that that's a major victory. But I am noticing here, in this light, so we might have in this here, we may have some ribbon underneath, which that could be mimicked, but it's only in the front. I think in the back it's started to bleach out. You see what I mean?
I think it's probably the reverse. I think the back is going to be your true color, and your front is going to be your.
But I think that you can see that there's an encased ribbon in there.
And the other great thing about this one is you have the Winterhalter painting of Empress Eugenie in this dress. And you can see how closely Heiser got to recreating this dress herself.
I mean, she was a master, but I mean, Sue, I think this is an absolutely stunning doll. It's worth your putting the time and effort into it to just bring it back so that you can enjoy it in your cabinet. And I mean, a lot of Heiser's things are in very, very good condition, but time goes by. And what do you say to me always about textiles? Textiles and time.
That they're all on their own track to eternity.
Yeah, yeah.
They are going to self-destruct at some point. Some
Yep.
do it more quickly than others.
Yeah, and that's not to get everyone to be afraid, but everyone to realize that we're all going to have to do conservation,
Yep.
preservation, etc. to our
And your natural
collections.
fibers, by and large, up to this point, have been your most stable. And this probably encountered moisture and some sort of humidity
And
to
I
help it.
did we determine that this is a painted Heiser, where the crepe is painted?
This one probably is going to be the watercolors
That
and
probably preserved
painted
it.
versus
Yeah, yeah,
dyed.
yeah.
Because otherwise she might have
Yeah.
had the same
Yeah,
fate.
yeah.
Well, Sue, I hope we didn't make you want to go sit down and cry.
No, actually, I'm pleased because I always have questions, and I think a lot of people do, about when you get a doll and the dress is starting to go or the silk is starting to shatter. Am I better off doing something now, or should
Well,
I wait?
I think you should just save yourself a lot of trouble and let me have the doll, and then you don't have to worry about it. I'll take care of it.
Well, again, I think this will help a lot of people. I hope it does anyways.
The other thing is to have the courage to ask somebody before you do something that you'll regret having done.
Well, sadly, I ask a lot.
Well, I think that one thing I've heard recently is there is a rash of talking about originality. And the real reality, in my point of view, from where I'm doing this now for almost 40 years, I think originality is probably less than 10%
Of what's out there.
of what's out there. True original material on dolls. Because as we said earlier, it's changeable, layers.
It changes with the generations of collectors.
Exactly. So that there are a lot of dolls that are going to need TLC. And I think
Because
we
the
should...
fewer they are, that means the rarer they are.
Exactly. And
that's why it's important to keep the original.
and it doesn't mean that if you have a doll that's been recostumed or restored in any way, it still has value just the same as the famous Leonardo painting that just went around. They put it into extensive conservation.
Salvator Mundi.
Yeah. And so if we want this to be high art, we have to accept that this is what we have to do. you know.
Well, I can't thank you enough because this has been great for me to have two experts help me with this.
You have our permission.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I really do appreciate this. This has been great.
All right. We're going to go have lunch now.
Okay.
Bye-bye, World Doll Day, friends.